And the meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. I am most grateful for Christian Science and for all it has accomplished in my life. I have worn glasses for most of my adult life until recently. Just a year ago, or just about a year ago, while reading my lesson in the morning, I noted the type was not clear, so I removed my glasses to check to see if the lenses were soiled. Suddenly, I realized the printed page was clear without glasses at all. That day was the very last day I have used glasses. The only time I use the glasses now is to remind me to say, "Thank you, Shepherd." I am most grateful.
Thank you. Candy from Wisconsin, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight, I would like to say thank you to this church and my practitioner for teaching me how to make Christian Science part of my every moment. A few weeks ago, I returned home from brunch only to discover one of my gold earrings was missing. I called the restaurant to give them the information to contact me if they found it. Then I started to berate myself, but remembered nothing is lost in God's kingdom. Whenever the bad thoughts came, God's laws of good replaced them. One night, while thinking about reflection, I realized God doesn't lose anything. Then how could I, as his reflection, lose anything? A short time later, the restaurant called and said they found the earring, and it was returned in perfect condition. What a treasure we have in Christian Science and this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I am very grateful to God for Christian Science and for bringing me to this church, where each day is filled with so much to learn and to do. It is a constant blessing to find in Christian Science that God has not only created me, but he created me with a purpose. This has made a huge difference in my life. Actually, it is bigger than that. It has made all the difference in my life. I've gone from feeling perpetually lost to being right where I'm supposed to be. I'm very grateful to God, to this church, and to my practitioner for this complete change that I've gone through. Thank you. And now I have a testimony from Diana in Berlin and Vienna.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I'm in Berlin now, and I would like to express my gratitude for the lessons on David and Goliath that I've been learning this week. It started when someone mentioned last week in the roundtable or Bible study that he was grateful to understand Mary Baker Eddy's interpretation of David and Goliath. That got me wondering. Of course, I was not surprised when the next day, as I was listening to the weekend discussions on SoundCloud, the track ended and went right into chapter 118 of Gilbert Carpenter's Mary Baker Eddy, Her Spiritual Footsteps. Chapter 118 teaches about David and Goliath. Quote, "The fact is apparent that one can never destroy animal magnetism aimed at truth by killing the one who is expressing that animal magnetism, for one must always deal with the source and never the channel. David, wielding his sling and stone, unerringly reached causation, the simplicity of which was concealed beneath the great mass of effect. The simple nature of his weapon proved his knowledge of the simple nature of the problem, which alone made him master of it. He touched the vulnerable place in animal magnetism with truth, and the manifestation of misconception was made clean, the error destroyed." Then, on Thursday, November 15th, we had a Unity Watch, which included this interpretation of David and Goliath. And from that Unity Watch, I'm doing mini watches with what was written there, which is, quote, "And so David defeated the Goliath of animal magnetism with one small stone, the powerful stone of truth." That same animal magnetism is behind the Goliaths that seem to be parading before our eyes today and is just as vulnerable. You, evil, error, animal magnetism, are a lie, a fake, a fraud. You have no face, no name, and no organization to operate through. You have tried to cast a cloud of darkness over this nation, this world, and you have failed, and you know it, and I know it, and I know you know it. As you were soundly defeated and destroyed by David, by Jesus, and by Mrs. Eddy, so you are defeated now. Truth is just as effective today and just as victorious. And then on Sunday's roundtable, Gary and Mary both discussed this again. I'm just so grateful that whenever I want more information on how to understand a concept, I always seem to find the answer without difficulty. The website is so rich, and the instruction that we receive throughout each week is so abundant that understanding comes directly and smoothly. Literally, I knock and the door opens. And I just want to express all of my gratitude to all that you are all doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. Last week when I was in my pottery shop with some customers, one of them asked me who built the building for me. I told her I built it, along with all the plumbing and wiring. She then asked, "How do you know how to do everything? Is there anything you can't do?" In the past, when asked about my abilities, and for fear of being scoffed at, I would reply, "I just do." But I have learned through the teachings of this church and the lessons I have learned from my practitioner that with God all things are possible. I hesitated for a moment, but felt strongly compelled to express that it is God who provides the wisdom and the strength and the ability to accomplish any task. It was God who built this shop for you and me and anyone else who needs a safe place to just be. At that moment, I felt so completely wrapped in love, and I know they did too. The woman then said, "Yes, it is God. That is so wonderful. I just love being here." I am so grateful for everything I'm learning through the study and practice of Christian Science, for Sunday's discussion on moral courage that helped me to understand the importance of exalting God, and for all the love and support I receive from my practitioner. I am so grateful for this incredible life I get to live in the service of God. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bruce. This is almost like another plug for our website. Another article we're featuring there is one written by Mary Baker Eddy entitled Reformers. I just love this article. Obviously, we have many freedoms and comforts today that we're enjoying, and I'm hoping we remember that there were many reformers that went before us that helped this to come about this way. But anyway, Mrs. Eddy has this one sentence in this article where she said that she has reverence for those who are true and honest to their convictions and are strong of purpose. And it really resonates with my heart. I got to tell you that much. But anyway, I had an example yesterday, which was somewhat of an example like this. I thought I'd share it. I was working at an office, and we discovered that one of the business owners there did something that they shouldn't have done. and it could have harmed some of the other business owners, and I pointed this out. And there was a little contention, and finally it ended up in the room where I was working, and the only thing that I could do was just simply tell the truth. You know, this was done, and this is the consequence of it. And they went back and forth a few times, but ultimately, we just stuck with what was really true and what should have been done in an honorable way. And then very shortly thereafter, everybody agreed, and the contention melted away into cooperation, and the person that did this did an appropriate corrective action, which was appropriate, and everybody was thankful for. But I'm just so thankful for Christian Science, because it stands for right and does the right thing. And I'm not quite sure that without Christian Science, I would have known what to do with this situation. But those that are true and honest to the convictions of what's right, they have God's power behind them all the way. So I'm thankful for Christian Science. I'm thankful for those other business owners that were equally standing for right to resolve this situation and prove that God does indeed govern. Day from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful for our Wednesday testimony meetings, which give us the opportunity to not only be reminded that we have so much to be thankful for each day, but also remind us of the importance of expressing our gratitude consistently all year round. I'm learning that this glorifies God and blesses those in need in a meaningful way, and helps us to fulfill the law of loving God and man taught in Christian Science. Again, I'm grateful for the healing work going on in this church. Thank you so much for tonight's meeting and for all of the testimonies given tonight.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
Good evening. I would like to express gratitude for a healing of a grudge against a grocery store checker at a store I go to often. I had several experiences with this person that did not make me happy to be in his checkout line. I knew this wasn't right, and so I worked on seeing this person correctly as God's child. It wasn't easy, but I noticed it was a bit better each time I was in his line. Last week, my husband and I were at the store and walking to the checkout line. I saw this this checker, and I thought, no, I'm not going down that road. Just then, a feeling of love for this person flooded my consciousness. We went to his line. He checked our groceries before I could get my coupon number in, as he has done before. This time, however, when I mentioned this, he said, would you like me to ring up your order again? There's only a few items. I gave him a very grateful look and said, yes, thank you so much, and then put in my number, and he rang up the order again. And my husband and I were then on our way, and I was so grateful for this experience. I'm very grateful for the Plainfield Church, Christian Science Church Independent, for the practitioner help, and for Christian Science as taught here in the Plainfield Church. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you for those readings on trusting in and thanking God. How important it is to keep our thoughts stayed on Him, praising and glorifying God. My husband and I had an experience this week of God's protection and guidance. Sunday evening, we discovered the freezer side of our refrigerator was not working. We were able to transfer food to another freezer we have in the garage, but we kept food in the refrigerator section because upon testing it with a thermometer, it was working properly. The next morning, however, the refrigerator was failing as well. We emptied it, unplugged it, and went to purchase a new appliance. It wasn't until the next day when my husband pulled the refrigerator out from the wall to empty the water line to the ice maker and prepare for the new appliance that we saw what had happened when the freezer failed. The polyurethane protective coating on our stained cabinet, which was next to the freezer, was gone and was fused to the outside of the freezer. Evidently, the heat of the defroster caused this to happen. Later, when speaking with a plumber, he was amazed that we didn't smell anything or that a fire hadn't started. I credit this with what I have learned in this church, to always strive to keep thought on and with God, doing prayerful study faithfully, doing the church watches, proclaiming God's goodness and all power and his ever-present love going out to the whole world, and not backing down to any erroneous claim, but work all the more to know and acknowledge God's omnipotence. God's hand was on our experience. We found exactly what we needed in a new appliance and got it on a good sale. And when my husband went by to speak with a plumber on his way to the hardware store to ask about a clamp for the new water line, or have one of the plumbers do it, the owner sold him at his wholesale price a much better clamp than he could have bought himself, and told him how to do it and save the $100 charge that the plumber would have had to bill us. Regular work with a practitioner in this church has improved my work in life greatly. In fact, a statement from an article by Bicknell Young entitled Idea, which my practitioner told me about, helped immensely at this time. It is, quote, whatever is occurring is good, or it is not occurring, end quote. I can never be grateful enough for finding this church home where God is all, Christ Jesus our model, and Mary Baker Eddy our leader in following the Christ. Thank you again for the readings, the music, and all the other testimonies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chardell.
Good evening, and I would also like to say a big thank you for the readings about Let Us Count on God and Count Our Blessings, and also the hymns, the beautiful words. When you really stop and pay attention, they're just wonderful and very healing. I wish to offer my gratitude for what I am learning here at Plainfield through practitioner support, our website, and classes. The other day, something wonderful happened that had to do with time and timing. There was something I needed to do for church, and other obligations were presented to me. After prayer and thinking about the points presented in the article called Day by Bicknell Young, I got the idea to start the work the night before the usual time, which I did, and everything fell into place, and all the obligations were met with harmony and happiness. This is a small demonstration, but leaves me with great hope and encouragement to know that I am always in God's mind and can go forward in my spiritual growth. I love this from Exodus 4:14. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam from Virginia, go ahead.
Yes, many years ago, before I was married, I lived in the West, and I was very close to God and spent much time in Christian Science study. I was able to work metaphysically through what I was learning in Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy and Mrs. Eddy's other writings. One powerful article I read daily was God's Law of Adjustment by Adam Dickey, who was Mrs. Eddy's secretary for a period of time. I really worked to understand all that was stated in that article. And one morning, as I was getting ready to leave to go to my job, I could not locate my car keys and looked everywhere and still could not find them. My thought was still very much with this article that I'd previously mentioned, so I did not feel disturbed. At that point, I thought I would ask a neighbor if they would be able to take me to my office, and as I headed out the door, I heard a voice say very distinctly, "Go into the bathroom and open the drawer on the left-hand side." This was not like any voice I'd heard before, and I recognized it as directions from God, mind, telling me where the keys were. I followed the instructions and opened the drawer, and there they were. I was so excited, I was just like a little child. I remember jumping up and down in the living room saying, "This is the way it's supposed to be all the time. Thank you, Father." When you are one with mind and listening for mind's directing, you can expect this. Another time, several days later, as I was working in science one evening and praying, a very distinct thought came to me to work for someone traveling. I had no idea who I knew that was traveling at the time, but I got busy and specifically worked for their protection and safety. These were just several examples of the way God works with us to protect and love us and help us if we draw nigh to Him. I am so grateful to be here this evening, and thank you, Day Day, for the wonderful readings and all the testimonies. Good evening.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank God for the beautiful music that was played. It's so heart-moving. And I wanted to thank for the way of life of, actually I got it from Mrs. Eddie Sims, Christ my refuge. And in the last verse it says, and once I learned this, it kept me upbeat pretty much every day actually, unless I forgot it for some reason. My prayer is some daily good to do to thine for thee, and offering pure of love whereto God leadeth me. And I just love that from Mary Baker Eddy because it made me feel like I was doing my part. God has blessed us and blessed me in so many ways. If I ever needed anything, He provided it, including this year. And if I needed to do something, He showed me how. But it never felt truly satisfied until I did something also. And the fact that I could help somebody out in some way just made me feel good and actually more peaceful. Thank God for Mary Baker Eddy teaching us these things and all these lessons we learn here.
Thank you. Lori from Virginia, go ahead.
I wanted to share that I'm leaving a job, and as the day of termination approached, it was today, I was holding fear. I've been working with a practitioner, but yesterday I began thinking I wasn't doing all I could myself. In Science and Health, page 4, 12 to 13, Mrs. Eddy says, the habitual struggle to be always good is unceasing prayer. I saw I was asking God for the clarity of purpose and support to do and be habitually good in a new job, and although willing to struggle, I was not getting down on my knees in prayer, and healings would relapse. I was listening to the YouTube reading of Ralph Spencer's account of Mary Baker Eddy's healings over and over as I was quite fearful, and reflection on healings always helps. Yesterday, I sat to pray with a few of the revelations that came to me in these writings. I began to pray that I claim the consciousness of Christ right here, right now, as Mrs. Eddy had told a worker who was having trouble meeting a challenge with her husband. And then I saw the Christ consciousness as me right at the moment. The day was overcast with a lot of cloud cover, and I remembered another treatment Mrs. Eddy performed that dissipated severe storm clouds, which were becoming a cyclone right at Pleasant View. She said, "There are no clouds to hide God's face. There is nothing that can come between the light and us. It is divine mind's weather." And the storm quickly disappeared. I decided that I would follow Mrs. Eddy's exercise given to her new students and work towards a demonstration of the weather right there. I saw the Christ consciousness, knowing nothing can come between us and the light, and knowing my answers and directions are crystal clear truth because they are the Christ consciousness. No mortal mind or mesmerism can dissuade me into fear. Nothing has power in the face of divine love. Another healing I had read came to mind that was given of a man finding water in his well when it had gone dry. He was hauling ice and snow from the river to get water for his cows. When she heard of this, Mrs. Eddy said, "If he only knew, love fills that well." The next morning when he returned to the well, he found it full. And I knew that this was true for my challenge of seeming lack of livelihood, lack of money, lack of home. I continued praying deeply and without falter or compromise until I had a demonstration. I stayed with the healing thoughts and began to see I had not been steadfast. I was clinging to the old while asking God to lead me forward. I was not putting off the old man, but trying to upright and heal him. I was having more than one God by putting faith in a job and a paycheck above all omnipotence and one mind. Then I saw clearly God is leading me to a new place, not a patch-up and quick fix to save what is here now. I saw I was limiting and stifling myself when God was calling me onward, and I was not afraid. I was in earnest as I prayed, and as thoughts got clear, the clouds literally were disappearing all around me. I was sitting at a small hill with a panoramic view. I did not let up, but continued until I felt all error was clear from my thoughts. I looked up and around, and there were only a few wispy clouds here and there, a bright blue sky and sunshine everywhere. Thank God for the Christ and for God's government here and now. Another healing came to me where a man was healed by remembering words Mary Baker Eddy had said to him many years before. Acknowledge the absolute perfection here and now. I took this thought to the termination meeting this morning, and I saw it as the truth of all in the room as a perfect expression of God. And I see this day as a perfect expression of God. Thank you, Plainfield, and all those sharing pearls of wisdom. And I thank the practitioners, and I'm so grateful to her for the constant love and support again and again, and for learning better how to be a Christian Scientist.
Thank you. Barbara or Ken, go ahead.
Tonight I'd like to say thank you to Plainfield Church for providing so many helps around the clock. This morning, about 3 a.m., my husband and I were in need of inspiration, and lo, there was today's calendar statement email with a link to a testimony I don't remember having heard before, with such a helpful, tailor-made message. Thanks to every member as well as others supporting his church and its mission. And thanks, everyone, for their wonderful testimonies tonight. Good night.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings tonight. I'd like to express my gratitude for all the instruction this year on how to do prayer watches for the world. The other day in my area, we experienced an unexpected snowstorm, and then they had to close the schools early, and there was a lot of traffic. I live on a busy hill that is also a turn, and it's a high traffic area. Dozens of cars come through the day. And if they stop going up the hill, they get stuck, and it causes traffic problems. And it started right away. There was a car already stuck, then the problem started to escalate, and it was getting slippery, and I don't need to get into all the details. But I started to get this old sense of worry, and I started to get mesmerized by the picture. Then I remembered to turn to prayer. And I started to pray for all that were out on the road. And I was just that Christ, was there, God's power and presence, and there were ideas and a way out. We couldn't be trapped, and that God was behind every will and other thoughts that came. And the situation was resolved. Somebody did try to get out and help, and he could not move the car. And I just mention this because it was God's hand. Both situations that had gotten stuck, one got away in a unique way, was just divine. I mean, it was a miracle. I've been in this house for over 30 years and have seen this year after year, and I've never seen anyone released from this situation like this. Then the next person behind them were stuck, and then that was a whole nother unique way. I have never seen anybody released from this trapped kind of snow and location. It was so beautiful because somebody from the other direction had stopped with his big truck to give them this room and time to get free from the situation. And it was just so amazing to see the order, the timing, and the patience and the kindness and the unique answers for these cars. So it has just really transformed the way I'm looking at this space, and I'm praying for it. And it was good to be released from this old sense that I had in this picture of situations that can't be helped. And then after those two cars got released, it never happened again. The snow wasn't cleared or nothing changed. It just never happened. Cars kept moving up and down until eventually there was very few cars on the road. But I'm so grateful that we don't have to stand by helpless, and that you can help others. And I thought this would be encouraging for people who do watches to know that sometimes you can't see the results of your work, but it is going out and it is helping. And I'm very grateful for the teachings of Christ Jesus, Mrs. Eddy giving us the science, the practitioner support that I got that has helped heal and clear my thinking so that I can understand and do better watches, and for this church for doing watches. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I started a new job a couple of weeks ago, but it's just the same thing that I used to work, just a new agency. But I work with youth with autism. But this new job that I started working, there is one young man that just came to the place almost the same time that I was hired. He came about a few weeks before I was hired. But his autism is most severe you can ever imagine. And when I arrived there, I started experiencing his situation. But I wasn't worried. I have never seen his kind of behavior before, even in all my experience I've had. But we were taught here that the science that we were given is not limited to us or to our home. It's something we can take with us. In fact, the main purpose is to take the science to everywhere we go. And immediately I saw this young man, I started seeing him as a child of God. I refused to buy into the claim that other people were imposing on him. Not even for a moment. I keep seeing him as he is. A beloved child of God. And that's what he is. Even when his mom calls me on the phone and tries to complain, I stay calm and I repeat the truth to her, whether she understands this or not, but at least for my own benefit. gradually this young man started to change. And to everyone's surprise, he became a completely opposite of how he was when he first arrived. And when he first arrived, he was the most severe individual in the whole group. Today, he's the most calm person in the whole group. He's the most fun person to be around with. In fact, people start seeing what they haven't seen in him before. To his mom, for 28 years they've been living together, she has told me a million times that she never seen him like this. And all I told to her was, it was God that is doing it for her and for him. But I know in my heart that it was God. It wasn't me, it wasn't anybody. But God is manifesting himself through him. And it was possible because I was able to see him as he is, as God made him. Not as the world see him, but as God sees him. I'm so grateful for what I've been given in this church, for all the teaching that I've been taught here, that I can take Christian Science everywhere I go. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.